with athletes is the athletic position. So dynamic, proper position, loading the hips, keeping your lower back out of it. If you start using your back instead of your hips, if you start doing this, trying to dig a ball, trying to pass a ball, you will start to break down your lower back. What that means is that if you do repetitively flex your back and extend your back, all that force is going to transfer through your disc. Okay, your back is not designed like a hinge. It's not designed like your hip joint, which is a ball socket joint. It properly bends and extends like this. This is the athletic position that you want an athlete to be able to get into. If they do not get into that position, does that mean that they're not going to hurt? They probably will not hurt if they don't get into that position. So this is not going to hurt your athlete. If they do that consistently, year after year after year, they will break down their lower back. You will end up with, especially tall athletes, you will end up with spondylolisthesis, spinal hypermobility, things like that that will create problems. If you ask your athlete, does your back ever hurt? They will tell you that they have back pain. They think it's normal. They think after a hard workout, it's perfectly okay for your back to hurt. That's not the case. So what we hammer home is teach proper mechanics, teach proper mechanics, teach proper mechanics.
Show us some of the mechanics.
Dynamic position is basically what it all comes down to. Dynamic athletic position. Loading your hip, largest muscle in your body, your glute maximus. That's where your power comes from. That's where the ability to come up and extend, move quickly, side to side, back and forth. It all starts with your butt muscle. That's the engine of your body. If I constantly have to come out of this and back up, I will not be able to move as quickly, move as efficiently, or move as powerful as when I get into this dynamic position. Look in basketball, look in volleyball, look in football, the three-point position. Everything boils down to that dynamic athletic position.
Great. So now, what about getting like extremely low?
So coming down like this, same thing. So you basically create a Z. You create an angle through the ankle, the knee, and the hip, where everything is stacked properly, everything is dynamically balanced, and now you'll be able to propel, move as agile and as active and as dynamic as you can. This is not a dynamic active position. I don't have my joint in the dynamic neutral position. I'm extending my knee, I'm extending or flexing my hip maximally, and that does not create a spring-like situation. So what you're looking for is to be in a dynamic spring-like situation. So you don't have to stop here. You can continue on lower, again, as long as you stay in that flexible dynamic position.
So the relationship of your torso to your hip stays relatively the same.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So what that means is you're taking your back out of it. You're keeping your spine in a neutral position. I can keep my spine in neutral, meaning it's not rounded and it's not arched. With volleyball players, you will see this position quite a bit. So if I get low and I'm keeping my shoulders back, I will arch my back. So getting your shoulders dynamically into the position, getting your hands out of the way. Now all I'm doing is using my hips. My back stays neutral. I can move forwards, I can move upright, but the movement all takes place in my knee and my hip.
So is there a range that is there an acceptable range that your torso can be in, as opposed to there is one point that your torso has to stay in?
No, there is an acceptable range. The range depends on the flexibility and position of your hips. So the more flexible a person is, the bigger the range will be. The stiffer they are, the smaller that range is, the more likely you are to start compensating in areas that you do not want to compensate.
So we want good hip flexibility.
Hip flexibility, dynamic hip flexibility is extremely important. And dynamic hip flexibility means that not only are you flexible, but you're able to control the positions within that range. If I'm flexible in my hips, but I cannot maintain this position dynamically while moving side to side or stepping back and forth, I will still end up using my back. I will still end up stressing structures that were not designed